Hello. Okay. This seems to be recording. Hi, everyone. I feel really self conscious because I think that I look horrible on camera right now. Welcome back to another episode of TMI Corner. Today we are going to talk about. I have a condition that is known as dysmenorrhea. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Basically, it's a condition that means that you have really heavy, painful, nasty periods. And there's two forms, primary dysmenorrhea and secondary dysmenorrhea. Secondary dysmenorrhea is where you have really heavy, painful, nasty periods because they're caused by something else, like you have fibroids or endometriosis or something else like that that causes this. Primary dysmenorrhea is, it just kind of fucking happens and you don't know why. There's no, like, clear medical cause. So, I have primary dysmenorrhea. And it's one of those things, kind of like being demisexual, that I didn't know was a thing for a lot of my life. This is TMI Corner, but it really, and this is the pattern for primary dysmenorrhea is that you have, like, when you have menarche, when you start menstruating, it's okay for, like, the first year to, like, between 1 year and, like, 2 or 2.5 years is when the pain really starts kicking in. And it stays consistent over the rest of your life at that level versus if you have secondary dysmenorrhea caused by something like endometriosis gets worse over time. So it takes longer for it for you to start noticing it because it builds up, and then it gets progressively worse. So this is why I'm pretty sure that what I have is primary dysmenorrhea, because I fit that profile. Like, I was fine for the first, like, year, 2 years maybe, because my menarche was on the 4th of July. Yes, when I was 13, which was the summer between 5th grade and 6th grade, so between when I went from elementary school to middle school, because that's how my neighborhood did it. And I started noticing my symptoms of dysmenorrhea partway through my year in 8th grade, so about a little over 2 years. And at first, it was just like, I thought I had bad gas or I had an upset stomach or I was constipated or something. So I would go to the bathroom a lot and not be able to do anything. And so I would go back to class because I would feel weird about being out of class for so long, but then the pain would still be there. So I would keep, until I figured out that this was just a thing and I couldn't get rid of it, I would go to, like, 5 times during class or something because I kept being like, well, maybe this time I can get rid of it. And the pain has never stopped since then. I mean, when I'm not menstruating, it stops. But I was on a progesterone pill for 10 years from the age of about, like, maybe 24 to 34. I say those were the best 10 years of my life because I basically didn't menstruate at all during those years. Because that's how bad it is for me. Essentially, what it feels like is every muscle from my navel down to my knees, it feels like every muscle in my body is like a rope, like on the torture device, the rack. Like, it's got like wet ropes on pulleys, and somebody is cranking up the pulleys, pulling the ropes tighter and tighter and tighter until they feel like they're going to snap. And that is what it feels like for me. I mean, I also get really bad gas and bloating, and I can get stomach upset and diarrhea as well. I can get fuzzy headed or get headaches, which I think that's more less like not it being a direct cause, but more my body is kind of attempting to process the pain, and that's why that happens. I also get really emotionally whacked out. I get really weepy. My depression gets worse. My temper gets worse. Like, basically, pretty much every stereotype you've heard about, like, women and periods is actually true about me. I understand this isn't the case with everybody. I mean, part of it is genetic, and I'm pretty sure my mom said something to me that, I mean, I got it from her, so for her, this was normal, so she never told me, oh, this is unusual, maybe you should talk to a doctor, whatever. I just thought that this was what everybody experienced. And I think she said something to me about, like, one of my father's sisters is similar, so I have maybe double genes for it. I don't know. So when I was in college, my best friend in college one day was like, oh my God, I'm really, really freaked out because when I was on my period and I went to the bathroom, this giant ball of tissue came out. And am I dying? Is there something wrong with me? And I'm like, you're like 20. That's never happened to you before? Like, doesn't that happen to everybody all the time? And essentially what I've figured out has happened, why it hurts so much, and I'm sorry if this is TMI, but this is TMI Corner. This is why I talk about this. Because I do that, because I shed so much. With my period, like, there's so much matter that's coming out. It's, normally, a woman has her cervix is closed and then it opens slightly when she's on her period so that she can flush out her uterus. If she has so much stuff that she has to flush out that it can't fit out through the little hole in the cervix, what that means is that the body dilates the cervix and makes it bigger. And there is a bodily mechanism for doing that, which happens when you have a baby. It's called labor. And it triggers these very, very unpleasant reactions. I mean, my mom told me this when I was a teenager, and she said, oh yeah, I used to have really, really painful periods. And I didn't understand, and then I had a baby, and I'm like, wait, I recognize this feeling. If I didn't want to have kids, if I didn't already not want to have kids, this would have cured me of that. But to be fair, for anybody out there that's like, oh my God, I do really want to have kids, and my periods are really painful, how am I going to do this? Some people have told me that they have really painful periods and then labor feels like nothing. So, you could be one of the people who gets lucky. But, and since I've gotten the IUD, which I'll talk about in another episode, it's gotten a lot worse. And yeah, I've never had a child, but I know, maybe not to the same degree of magnitude, but I know on a basic level what labor feels like, because literally I will feel my muscles contracting and it's unbearably painful, and then it will relax for a couple of hours or a day or whatever, and then it will do it again. So yeah, that's what that feels like. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, other than saying that, like, dysmenorrhea is a thing, to talk about a lot of this, like, what I do for it, because I've been trying to find ways to cope with this my entire life. So number one good treatment for dysmenorrhea is heat. So I have my heating pad that like, and I'll kind of like wrap this around me before I go to bed, and stuff, because the pain is so bad that it makes it hard for me to sleep sometimes. The big problem, or the other thing, because I know that sleeping with a heating pad is kind of dangerous, and also, so usually what happens is I will, like, turn it. It does have, like, a 2-hour off, or I think an hour off, so, like, occasionally I'll leave it if it's really bad, but usually I want the heat to last for longer anyway, and I'm still a little nervous about running it. So I will more use that in the summer if I want quick relief, because I don't want like a hot thing on me all the time in the summer. Otherwise, I use this good old-fashioned hot water bottle. This one I was afraid a few days ago that it sprung a leak, so I ordered a 3-pack because I cannot live without these things. I even travel with them now. That's not just for periods. Like, I get cold at night, so I sleep with these a lot. But the big problem with heat is I do get really bad pains in my low back. So an additional problem is, and I will probably talk more about this in another video, I have scoliosis and kyphosis of the low back, which means that I have this really gnarly curvature at a particular point in my spine, which fucks up a lot of things in my back. So my low back is tight normally, so when I get this thing, and the whole, not joke, but the stereotype about women in labor having back pains and stuff like that. That's because the reaction triggers the muscles to contract back there. So when that starts happening to me when I already have a tight low back, it's really, really excruciatingly painful. So I want to put heat on my low back, but the problem is, especially if I'm trying to sleep, that part of my body gets overheated really easily, so it's hard to do that. So I have another sort of heat, like alternative to heat, which is this. This is called a TENS unit. This is what's called an e-stim box. I've actually known about these for years because if you have seen my video on demisexuality, I worked as a dominatrix. These things are big in, well, I don't know if they're big in the fetish scene, but this is e-stim is a sexual fetish where you stimulate the body with electricity and stuff. But it is also a medical therapy device. I actually got this from my chiropractor. I see a chiropractor all the time. That's another thing I do to help loosen up the low back, and he'll stretch me out and stuff, and that can really help when I'm having the cramps as well. But this takes a 9-volt battery in here, and then there's actually 2 of these things. 2 of these cables, so I can have 4 pads going on. So if I want to, the cable plugs in up here, and then these, they're kind of stuck together now, and they're kind of gross because they're old. I was supposed to pick up new ones from the chiropractor, but I haven't yet. These pads, when you first get them, have like sticky gel on them, and you like stick them on your body, and then when you stick like a red one and a blue one next to each other, they talk to each other and run an electrical current between them. And it's totally safe, like you won't, give yourself a heart attack or something if you put them on the same side, because it runs surface current. So, I've never used them on my friend. I'd be a little bit nervous, but he has used them like on my neck and my upper back before when that gets tight. And that's apparently totally safe, but what you really do not want to do, you don't want to put like one back here and one up here, because then it will, I don't know if they send the current that far, but then it could run the current through your heart, and that would be bad. And these, like I said, these pads are kind of old and gross. They disconnect, and you can get a new set of pads and connect them back up. And this thing has these 2 knobs that controls the right side and the left side, and you can control how long it is, like how wide the thing is. And sometimes, again, this is not great for sleeping, but when I, like right before it also auto off, so you can't overrun it either. But I will do that on my back. Sometimes when I have a really bad period, I will put all of the electrodes on my back and run them for 30 to 60 minutes, and then immediately take them off my back and put them on my stomach and just flip back and forth for the entire day. I also do take painkillers. One doctor told me, like, take up to 12 Advil a day. I get scared taking that many painkillers, especially because now with the IUD, it can go on for like weeks. So I don't want to be taking 12 Advil a day for like 2 weeks at a time. That doesn't seem like a good idea. But I also, so as I've maybe mentioned in other videos, I see a Chinese medicine practitioner, and she will, give me acupuncture. Supposedly there are meridians that can help treat menstrual cramps and stuff. And she will also sometimes do cupping on me, which is the most amazing. They're like these little glass cups or you can sometimes get plastic ones now. Originally, you would put like heat inside of them to create a vacuum, and then you stick it on and it pulls the skin up. It creates really, really hideous looking bruises. Like, I freak everybody out after I've had cupping done because they're just these ugly, like, first they're like purple and then they turn green and yellow before they go away. Circles, it looks like I got attacked by a giant octopus all over my back. But it feels like getting a full body massage in like 40 minutes when normally it would take hours, because they like pull the muscle away from the bone so it stretches out to the very base of the muscle. And that's amazing, and I love when she does that on my low back because it really helps. But she says that if you do it while you're actually menstruating, it can make it worse. So, and also, I only see her once a month. It doesn't always line up. But the other thing, she's having me take these little pills. They're called, backwards. This is Free and Easy Wanderer Plus. A Chinese herbal supplement. She's having me take them for depression, but she's also said they are amazing for menstrual issues. She's like, well, if you're having a really bad day, just take a bunch of these. I'm not entirely sure what a bunch is, and I've never really been able to remember to do it because it's not habitual, and by the time that happens, I feel so shitty that I don't remember. Another big problem is with hydration. Because, I have really bad stomach cramps, taking a cold liquid and putting it in my stomach right next to those muscles makes the cramps way worse. So I drink hot tea in the hopes that the tea will actually soothe the cramps rather than the opposite. But it's still hard to get enough hydration. This particular That Time of the Month herbal blend, this is a tea that is made by a pagan group that they sell like herbal blends and oils and stuff at Pagan Pride every year. And I always make sure that I buy. This year I bought like several packages of this tea because I ran out. What does it have in it? Calendula, chamomile, cinnamon, clovers, dandelion leaves, ginger, lemon balm, mugwort, sage, and skullcap. Made by Ariel the Herb Witch. They do have an online store. This stuff is amazing. It's very, very soothing. Of course, I just read that list of herbs, and if you were to buy this, make sure that you're not allergic to any of them or anything before you attempt to use them. In general, herbal medicines are something you need to be careful with. As you saw from my previous video about the St. John's wort, always be very careful when you use herbal things. But this tea has served me very well, and even if this particular herbal cocktail is something you can't handle, you can probably find a milder tea that you still will have like a few soothing herbs in it, like chamomile, and you're still getting the effect of drinking the warm tea. Another thing, there's other reasons to do this, but the, conventional pads that, woman buys, like a cotton-ish or pad that adhesives to her underwear that she wears during her period to absorb everything. Of course, there's all these things about these are horribly unhealthy because they have all kinds of chemicals in them and they produce a lot of environmental waste and blah, 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 blah. I don't know about the truth of any of those statements. I'm inclined to believe them, but I have other more compelling reasons. One, these pads, even the giant fucking extra heavy overnight ones, are not absorbent enough for me. I will leak like crazy if I use commercial pads. Also because they seal the edges. They have like this plastic seal that goes around the edges. I learned years ago that when you walk, so you've got this piece of plastic that's sticking out. I mean, it's soft, but just like you can get a paper cut on something, like a thin sheet of paper, even though paper feels kind of soft, this thing. And as you walk, your leg goes like this against the plastic edge. And when I was a teenager, at the end of the day, there would be little cuts all along the inside of my legs. And it was not fun. And I could only find one version of one brand that didn't have that plastic edge, which they probably since discontinued, so fuck that. So I use Luna panties, which are, please don't be grossed out. This is what the tag looks like, if you can see it. It's upside down, but whatever. And it's a company that makes renewable menstrual gear for women, sustainable menstrual gear. So basically, it's a pair of underwear. It looks normal. But on the inside, if you see this here, there's like a Velcro here. It's not Velcro, it's like elastic. So this is a pair of what's called Luna panties. These are Luna pads, and they're made out of cotton, and you slip them into the elastic on the Luna panties, like so. And then the elastic is very generous, so you can put more in. The rest of mine all were in the wash and the bag opened up, so they're all mixed in with my laundry now, and I can't find them, so I can't show you how you can put extra ones in. But you could put like 2 or 3 of these in here. And it's all, you can see it's totally soft and flexible. It's just like wearing regular underwear. I find it way more comfortable and way more convenient because, I can just like pull one out and actually just rinse it in the sink and let it dry and just keep cycling through them while I'm on my period. And then throw them all in the laundry and deep clean them at the end of the week. And I find this way, way more pleasant than using commercial stuff. Let's see, what else? This is going to involve moving around a bit. Well, one thing that I'm not going to show you, this is TMI corner, but I am not going to show you, that is getting off is great for menstrual cramps. Because it floods your body with endorphins, and because it involves contraction and release of your muscles, it can help the muscles relax. Most people know this, but in case anybody doesn't know, I would mention it. My boyfriend has basic training in Reiki, so sometimes he will do Reiki on me. Don't ask me what Reiki does. It's just a thing that is supposed to, you like put your hands on somebody or next to somebody and energy goes through you and it helps with anything. Yeah, whatever. So this, I also, let's see if I can show this. It's hard because I can't see this very well. There are a bunch of various acupressure points. So this is my navel right about here, and I found that there's like some here, if you press on, or here, that if you have cramping or gas or something in the low abdomen, that will help break it up. So let me pause this really quickly because I need to go upstairs. Okay, so here we are. We're in my bathroom. I hope this bath is dry because it was used earlier. So I designed this bath myself. Let me see if I could show you this. So first of all, this is a giant bath with jacuzzi jets and everything, and part of the purpose of it was to provide a nice relaxing place where I could take hot baths and fully submerge when I'm having menstrual cramps. Oh shit, it is not dry. So this is the faucet right here, and what I want you to notice here is the height of this. If I come next to it, this faucet is exactly the right height, and the edge of the bath is exactly the right height. So if I come here, which I can show you this from the side, and I kind of lean forward over the front, I can run hot water directly down my back to ease the cramping in the back. And the final thing is exercise, which people don't usually think of. You know, everybody wants to just sit around because you're in so much pain, and I found that exercising, for the same reason as getting off, because it can release endorphins, helps a lot. But in particular, here I am in my exercise room. There's a lot of yoga stuff that you can do. Particularly anything that involves back bending, because it will stretch out the back. If you're like me and you're prone to depression and your depression gets worse in your period, back bending also is a yogic method for treating depression, so you can kill two birds with one stone. So one of the best things that I've found, this is slightly more advanced, is what's called camel pose, where I'm kneeling here and then I bend backwards and I'm grabbing onto my heels here and I push forward. So it's creating this arch in the back. Let me see if I can tilt this down so you can see my feet. See, I grab the heels. This is a very tight stretch here though. So if you're not flexible there, this one might be difficult for you. The absolute best stretch for menstrual things in yoga, and that is not that difficult to do, is just Cobra, where you come up like this. And again, you create that arch in the back, and this releases a lot of stuff. So, again, I don't know if any of these things are really, new information to anybody. But, so essentially what I'm doing with these TMI episodes is this is stuff, going through life that I've learned that I wish I had known much earlier, and that's why I put it out there. So that is a host of things that I do to try to mitigate my symptoms of dysmenorrhea, because there really is kind of no cure for primary dysmenorrhea. With secondary dysmenorrhea, you can treat the primary thing that's causing it. Since we don't really know what's going on with primary dysmenorrhea, it's very hard to treat. And I've had oodles of tests. As far as I know, no endometriosis, no reproductive cancers, no, I have one tiny fibroid. It's not big enough to cause problems. So I've had the hell tested out of me, and nothing has ever been found. I've actually had my hormone levels checked, and literally there's nothing that anybody can find. My body just does this, and it sucks. So it's like I said, these are just like the things that I do to try to cope with that. And even if what you have is less severe or is not primary dysmenorrhea, these things might make things more pleasant for you as well. So, yeah, if you were curious. Until then, bye.